Hi, hello, welcome. I'm your host Emma, and you're listening to the Dead Awake podcast. Now, today we are going to be traveling to my homeland of Colorado, but more specifically, a haunting and iconic location tucked into the Rocky Mountain mountain range. Today we will be talking about the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park. If you've ever driven through Estes Park, it feels unworldly. The mountains towering all around you, the crisp air, and then suddenly this massive, white, old-timey hotel appears, looking both grand and just a little bit eerie. With 140 rooms, beautiful grounds, and luxury amenities, it was once the ultimate destination for the wealthy. But beyond the beauty lies a much darker reputation. Most people recognize the Stanley Hotel as its connection and feature in the making of the classic horror movie The Shining. But the real story of the Stanley goes much deeper than Hollywood. It's a place steeped in history, mystery, and countless tales of the paranormal. Guests and staff alike have reported seeing and hearing things that are unexplainable. So let's get comfy and deep dive into the history, legends, and lingering spirits of the Stanley Hotel. Let's go. I'll have my phone for all of my notes today, so if I'm looking down, that's why, like normal. The land that the Stanley Hotel lies on was originally inhabited by a couple of Native American tribes, such as the Ute and Arapaho, and they thought that this land was just really spiritually connected. But when the land was getting sold off when we came in, took the land, I don't know if that's controversial to say, but when we started selling it to people, the 4th Earl of Dunraven had originally owned the land, and he was an Irishman, and he came here and wanted to turn it into a private hunting reserve. However, he was very unpopular with the people that lived in the towns around, and they pretty much just ran him out of town. That's how badly he was disliked. So after he was ran out of town, the founder, Freeland Oscar Stanley, who was born in 1849, who also had founded the steam-powered car, got sick in 1903 with a very life-threatening case of tuberculosis. And at the time, as we know, I just did a episode on the Waverly Hills Sanatorium, and we know that they did not have any cures at the time for tuberculosis, and a lot of people were dying. But his doctor told him that he just needed some fresh air, as much sunlight as possible, and a hearty diet. So him and his wife Flora decided to move to Denver, and then his doctor here recommended that they stay in the Rocky Mountains because it's in the mountains and the air is more fresh there, and it's also very dry, which was a good factor for tuberculosis. And so they stayed up in the Rocky Mountains for the rest of the summer, and his health ended up drastically improving. But he also became very impressed with the beauty of the land, and he decided that he wanted to return there every summer. And in 1907, he had completely recovered, and he was just not happy with the way that the place looked, and he really just wanted to change it up, and eventually he came to the conclusion that he wanted to turn it into a resort town. In that same year, construction had started, and it started out as a 48-room grand hotel that appealed to all of his wealthy friends, and it said that if you weren't wealthy, you would ultimately get kicked out. The main hotel and concert hall were completed in 1909, and many of the other buildings were completed the year after that. And like I said before, this guy also found the steam-powered car, and so he actually made special cars that were called mountain wagons, and this would make it so that his guests could get to the resort easier. And it was originally designed as a summer resort, so although it had great amenities like phones in every room, electricity, and running water, it lacked heating, so guests could not stay there in the wintertime. However, they did have gas just in case of like power outages, so that would be their backup. And in 1911, just 2 years after opening, there was a gas explosion, and it had happened because the town was going to have a scheduled like power outage, or there was rumors of a power outage happening, so they ended up turning the gas on, and what they didn't know was that there was a gas leak, and in room 217, a maid by the name of Elizabeth Wilson had lit a candle, and it just ignited the whole room and essentially just blew it to bits. However, she did not die, but she was very severely injured. In the following years after that, he would build the place back up again and add more things to the resort. He said that it was kind of like a hobby for him, and that he just really enjoyed doing it because he didn't make that much money off of actually managing the hotel. And in 1926, he ended up selling the company, and he did this just so that he didn't have to manage it anymore, but he would still visit every summer after that. But the people that bought the hotel would end up going bankrupt, and he would end up buying it back again. But then he sold it again in 1930 to Roe Emery. And in 1970, it was not making as much money anymore until 1974, when Stephen King and his wife Tabitha had checked in as the only guest the night before it was actually supposed to close down for the winter time. And at this time, Stephen King was having a really hard time coming up with a plan for his new novel, and he ended up having a nightmare about his son getting chased through the halls of the hotel by a fire hose. And the next day when he woke up, he took his nightmare and his inspiration from the thought of the hotel being closed and empty during the winter time and actually turned it into The Shining. And in 1977, when it was published, it created a lot of tourist attraction, and it especially created a lot of tourist attraction when the film was released. And to this day, most people know the Stanley Hotel from The Shining. And because of the movie, they actually ended up building the hedge maze from The Shining into the actual hotel, so you can go there and visit. Now, personally, I've never been there, even though I've lived in Colorado my whole life. I've gone to Estes Park when I was like younger, but I have not been there in a long, long time. But I would love to stay there, except it's pretty expensive. But The Shining did not only give it just regular tourist attraction, it also gave a paranormal aspect to the hotel. And that's why many people go and visit, because they want to do some ghost hunting. It's actually been the subject of many ghost shows like Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures, and also many YouTubers have gone and done a lot of investigating there. Now, the most popular theory of why the Stanley Hotel is haunted is that many people say that the grand staircase is kind of like a portal or vortex of some sorts between our realm and the ghost realm. And I've also heard that like underneath is also like a portal, so like the ground, like kind of like how the Native Americans would say that it was a spiritual land. Like, I could see how that connects. People also say that the mirrors that face each other in like the hallways and stuff also create a lot of vortexes. And if you know anything about the paranormal or are interested in the paranormal, you probably know that two mirrors facing each other is not really a good thing. Now, back to room 217, the one with the gas explosion. Guests often report a lot of strange activity, like couples being pushed apart while they're trying to sleep, and single men will report that their luggage gets put outside of the door. And it's said that the maid that was in the gas explosion is tied to that room just because her it brought her so much pain and suffering, and people say that she has sort of a prude behavior. However, she is known as a friendly ghost, and many people say that they see her walking through their room and through the walls while they're trying to sleep. Another infamous ghost or spirit that is heard and seen is the phantom piano player, and many people suspect that it's Freeland Stanley's wife, Flora, because in life she really liked music and playing it, and she especially liked the piano. So it's said that she can be heard playing the piano, especially at night. It's also said that Stanley does not like other people touching his wife's piano. So if someone sits down and tries to play that he does not like, he will actually close the lid and slam it onto their fingers. People also say that they can see Stanley and Flora in the reflections in mirrors and in photos, which is kind of cool. I want a photo with a ghost. Another place in the hotel that is filled with spirits is the concert hall. The most known spirit is Lucy, and she supposedly lived in the hotel while it was in the middle of being sold, and it's reported that she had snuck through a hole in the ceiling, and after it was bought, she was found and reportedly kicked out. And it's said that she froze to death, kind of like Jack in The Shining. It's said that her spirit is very active and mostly seen in the concert hall, of course, because that's where she lived. And people claim that they see doors open and close all on their own and hear strange whispers of a woman even when nobody else is around. And when people are ghost hunting or on the ghost tour, she is most known for her manipulation of flashlights. Now, there are two other spirits, or known spirits, in the concert hall, and their names are Edward and Paul. They were both handymen of the hotel, and Paul had actually died of a heart attack, and it's reported that he often yells "get out" at people, and particularly during closing time or at curfew at 11 p.m. And if you think that Paul is not a very friendly ghost, then Edward is even more not friendly. It's said that he creates loud and aggressive bangs in the concert hall, and it's said that he wasn't a people person in life, and he obviously took that with him into the afterlife. Along with the spirits in the concert hall, there's also phantom parties in the ballroom, and you can hear laughter and like clinks of glasses in the ballroom. And while every floor is pretty much said to be active, the fourth floor, especially rooms 407 and 408, are the most active, I could guess you would say. On the fourth floor, there have been reports of small children seen running around, and many people that do ghost hunting there leave suckers behind for them, and when they come back, it's said that they're moved to very hard to reach places, as if the ghost children were taking their gifts and hiding them for later. But room 407 is known as the home to an angry Irishman who is said to watch you from the corner of the room, which is absolutely terrifying. If I saw that, or if I just saw a man in general standing in the corner of my room while I'm trying to sleep, I would leave. I'll sleep in my car, thank you. And he is known as Lord Dunraven after the very unpopular earl that inhabited the land when it was originally bought. When guests stay in the room, they report flickering lights and hair pulling. Now, room 408 is home to Jim Rocky Mountain Nugent? I'm gonna say Nugent, that sounds right. But he was essentially a infamous outlaw back when it was outlaw time, you know? Ignore that. But it's said that he had beef with the Earl, and he was essentially shot and killed for it. Guests report that they feel a man sitting at the end of their bed And women that stay in the room also report feeling as though someone kissed them and it wakes them up in the middle of the night, which is also terrifying. I would not stay in either of those rooms. I do not want a man watching me or sitting at the end of my bed or kissing me. Thank you very much. But that is not all of the ghosts that are there. It's just those are the most popular ones, and I would love to do some ghost hunting and investigating of my own. Maybe one day. Maybe I'll go there and record. Maybe I'll do that for my birthday. That would be good. The Stanley, to this very day, still holds its legacy as one of the most haunted hotels in America, and they do a lot of ghost tours, like I said, and they also do shining tours, which I'm not exactly sure what that is, but you can assume that it's based on The Shining. And they also hold a lot of events there, and one of the events that they hold is the Shining Ball in October, which I'm guessing is just like a ballroom event based on The Shining. But earlier this year, I think it was like in May, I read, a Denver-based group had bought the hotel for $400 million, and they actually planned to expand it, which I don't know how much more you need to expand it. It already has so much. It's huge, guys. It's very big. But that is all for today's episode of Dead Awake. What do you think? Would you spend the night at the Stanley Hotel or go ghost hunting there? I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Me personally, I would love to go. When I have the money, I would love to stay there. If you have any stories to share with me, comments, concerns, all of it, my email is deadawakepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on Instagram. I will have all of that down below for you. And if you enjoyed today's episode, the best way to support me is by following, giving me a 5-star review, liking, commenting, all of the above on whatever platform you're seeing this on. And it truly just helps out so much. Gets me out there, you know. And if you really enjoyed it, feel free to share with all your friends and family that would enjoy a spooky story. Until next time though, let's turn out the lights, get comfy, and stay dead awake.